this is Ashton. I did a couple videos on PLSQL development, the developer experience, and uses some of the latest and greatest tools like Docker, Git, etc., etc. So in this video, let's dive into some of the development of PLSQL. Let's talk about formatting. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna do is let's test out my connection. Okay, I'm able to connect. Okay. And so let's go over to our file. I just made a regular file, and these are some of the requirements for my file. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a couple quick wins. So let's do the very basics. Let's set the server output. Oops. Set the server output to format wrap. Okay. Let's set echo on so we can see our make our spool file and all that. Let's do echo on. And let's set the page size. These are some of the basics. Set our page size and line size. Oops. I'm gonna do about 20 for the page size, and let's set the line size to about 100. Give or take. Okay. So now, let's look at our requirements. I'm gonna actually save that file. Let's do the spool right now. So the spool is that log file I always talk about. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spool to report.txt, and then what I'm gonna do is do a spool off. Okay, so this is everything that's gonna be written. Okay, so now let's start with our basics of our report. Let's get the query running first. So this is the query that we want. In order for you to get a good query, get the query faster. So the fields, which is department ID, employee ID, first name, last name, and salary, and we're going to do all department IDs is less than 50 from HR employees. So let's go and grab our base. As I said before, let's see what we can do to grab that quickly. So to speed up development, I'm going to go into my DB Beaver. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it. So let's do a little bit of formatting. We know we want the first name and last name. We don't want these right here. We want the salary, right? So, and we want the department ID, and I think we have everything we need. So let's put our salary out here, and let's do a where department ID is less than 50. Okay? And let's go and run our file and see what happens. So what I'm going to do is do the @ symbol, and I'm going to find the file path to our file, which in Windows you can drag and drop it. Press enter. Okay. So we have maybe some issues somewhere. So, and I'm assuming it's right here. Let's do another run, and let's figure out where else did we do wrong. Ah, I know exactly where we did wrong. We logged in as sys. Okay. So we got to make sure this is from HR employees. And let's do this right here. And look at this right here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. And this right here is to go here. Had it on the wrong line. Okay, and get rid of that. This. And then we go. There we go. So we got everything we need. We have all the data we need. We have all of that. Okay. So let's talk about, let's go into a little bit of formatting right now. So see how this title right here? We might can actually just take this and we can put the title right here and add an extra T. And what we can do is let's make it skip 2 lines. Okay. And let's give it a run. And there we go. There go our title. Let's center this title as well. So what we're going to do is to center that title, we are going to do this right here. So center it right here. Okay. So now let's give it a run. Let's see our report look. It's centered now. Looks beautiful. Okay. So after we centered our title, um, let's go and look at our requirements. So we do want to set breaks on department ID on the report. Okay. So it gives you a couple key words that you can actually use. So first thing we got to do, let's put the break in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a break on department ID on the report. Okay, so it's kind of clear cut right here. All right. So now, anything else we need to add? No. Okay. But one thing I do want to add is I want to do an order by. So what I prefer to do is do an order by part, do an order by department ID. That's what I prefer to do. So we have everything in order. And then plus we have some calculation statements too that's coming too. So what happens is it breaks everything. So everything that's department ID 20, everything is 30 and 40 and so on and so on. Okay, so we get about 10, what is that, 10 rows? Yeah, about 10 rows selected. So let's talk about, let's go and do some more formatting on the columns. Show some column control. So the keyword will be column. And what we got, one, two, three, four, five. So let's just take this whole thing right here. Let's copy it. I like the speed program. So I'm kind of a lazy programmer. So if I can copy and paste, I'll do it at any time. Anytime I get a chance. So let's take the columns. Let's go here and let's add a column to each one of these. Alright. Alright, so we add the column to each one of these. Now, let's give it some instructions on how we want to format. So the employee ID, I'm going to format it with 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5. Just in case, these are how many digits that we're expecting. So say we're expecting 5 digits, and then let's give the heading a different name, more user-friendly, I bet. So let's just say employee ID, no underscore. Okay. And so department we might can do the same with. So we can take department, and it looked like department had no more than 2, but for flexibility, let's move it to 4 just in case we grow. So let's turn this to department ID. Okay. So now let's go to salary. So we can copy this, but it's gonna be a little bit different for salary. So I expect maybe about 6 figures, and I want a currency. So what I'm gonna do is put the dollar sign for a currency. We're gonna do like 6 figures right here. We're gonna do here. Okay. And then let's go into the first name and last name, which we can copy this right here, and it's going to be a little bit different. So for the first name and last name, what we're going to do is we're going to change this right here and say we do, let's do, let's give space of 30 on each one. Let's see how our report looks. Okay. So after we do that, we have a problem too. So see how we did the copy and paste? Let's change this to first. Whoops. Let's change this to first name. Whoops. I can't spell today. Let's go to first name. Let's go to last name. And let's go to input salary. Okay. And let's see how our report looks. Let's give it a run. Okay. So yeah, see, made our changes. Got our column headers in there and everything, showing everything looks nice. But let's keep going. I'll get to the other part later. Okay. So now, it says that we want to do a break on the report. Break. Well, we did the break on the department ID, and let's confirm that. Yeah, we got the break on there. Let's talk about the compute subtotal, okay, and grand total on report. It kind of give away in some of the language, but what we're gonna do is it'd be a little tricky. So let's start with the subtotal. Let's do a compute and the sum, which we want the sum of these numbers. Let's give it a label too. I'll show you what happens when we don't give it a label. Okay, so we're gonna say of salary, which is our salary column. We want a sum of the salary, and we want it on department ID. So each department ID, every time it changes, it's gonna give us a sum. Okay, so let's go and look at our report, and look what we have here. So see how it says sum? I don't really like that. Okay, we got two problems here where sum is being put under department ID too. So I don't really like that. So we're going to make some changes. Okay, so the first change is what we're going to do is get this out of here. It doesn't look good. So let's do this. All we got to do is add label, and we can call it subtotal. And I'll make it look kind of good. I butchered that. Do subtotal. And let's give it a run. All right, so we got the subtotal, but we still have a problem. Okay, so what we want to do is, you see how we got department ID right here? It's either we move department ID or we change where subtotal is to be printed out at. Okay, so maybe I can do this. Let's test it out. Let's do an experiment. Even though instructions want us to do it on department ID. Okay, all right. See, that doesn't fix it at all. Let me make sure I saved it. Because we had that break on department ID as well. So see, it doesn't fix it at all. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's go and let's change this back to department ID. And if you look up here, we listed department ID first for a reason, because of this exact reason. Okay, so let's take our department ID, let's move it up. Okay, let's give it a look at it. All right, there we go. So there go our department ID. And if you notice right here, it's under the department ID column. And then we have our subtotals, which looks nice. Okay, so now let's talk about that grand total. So we want the grand total based on what was mentioned. We want the grand total to be on the report, which means it's at the bottom. Okay, when we do the on report, this is the report as its entirety. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a compute, and then what we're going to do is we want a sum of the entire report, not just on department, not just using department ID or salary, the entire report. So we're going to do a sum, and then we're going to do a label, and then we'll do grand total, do something like that, salary. Now this is the tricky part, on report, the entire report. Huh? So let's give it a run. Huh? Look at that. Now another thing is, if we were to do something like this and put employee ID right here, let's see what happens. If you notice right here, look, it caused a big issue. So that order does matter. Okay, See how it causes that big issue where we're not getting subtotals no more? We're not getting any of that. We get the grand total. So what we'll do is let's switch it back around. Okay? Switch it back around, and what we do is just run the report. So now the report looks really pretty. Okay? And so that spool we had, let's go and talk about that spool. So the spool, let's go and find it. Now this is how we find the spool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna exit out of SQL plus and see how we're in this directory right here. We would have expected it to be in this directory right here. You don't see a test. So in order to fix that, what you can do is you can either take the spool, when you do the spool, do the direct path. But that's kind of bad because when you jump from system to system, you might be on Linux or you might be on Windows. So what I like to do is whenever I run automated reports, I actually just run my SQL plus in the directory that I want the report to go. I mean, yeah, in the directory, in one directory, and I just use the name of the, just use a unique name of the report for the report. So now, if you were to go to ashto, remember we ran SQL plus in the ashto directory. See, test is right here. See, that's my report right there. But if I cd to the directory that I got all my scripts in, and I don't want to use that direct path because of other systems, because I like things cross-platform. I like it to be OS mutual. So what I do is log in here, and then what I do is run it here. And then if you go here, then you'll see that test right there. Okay. So now let's get into Git. So after I ran everything, okay. So if I go here, I have all these. I added some files, right? So what I'm gonna do is I want to add everything I have. I can do individually, and I can do a git add, and I can do and I can say just my source right here. Okay, just git add this right here. Okay, that's all I want to do. And then what I do is I do a commit dash m. This is the verbiage that I want is why I did it, and I can say like added new script. And then what I do is push it up to the repository. Say I want to push everything, okay? Some of this stuff is already here, but we might be missing the report.txt. So I can do a git, and I can do an add, dash, dash, and I can do all, okay? I can do a git commit, dash m, and I can say add it all, and I can do a git push. So now, let's go over and look at what actually I was doing because I never explained it to anyone what this is. You might be new, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm pushing to my version control. So if I go to, I'm going to show the screen in a few. Let me go to my Bitbucket. So we pushed it up. Let's go over to my Bitbucket and right here. And so here's the files. You can see quite a few things. We call it a commit. You can see everything that I changed. See, this was pushed a minute ago. Okay, and this is what I added. This is that one file I pushed. Okay, and then if I go back, we can go back to the commits and say I want to see when I did that push all. These are the files that I did for the push all. Now watch this. Say I go in and I want to fix a piece of my source. So let's see. Let me grab the right one. Say I want to fix a piece of my source. Say that I want this to be Ashton's module. Okay, and then I give it a run. Which when I do this run, it's going to replace reports too, right? So what I do is do my @ symbol, and let's go and grab the file I want to run, which is, let's go backwards here, which should be right here. So let's go and do a rerun. Okay, and then I'm gonna exit out of here, and I'm gonna do a git add. I want to add everything. Okay, all, and then I'm gonna do a git commit dash m um, fixed title and ran report. Okay, set up, and then what I'm gonna do is do a git push. All right, so now let's go and take a look at those changes. So say you're working on a team, you can see all the changes that each team member has made. So there go my comment right there. If I go over to that commit, it tells me what I changed. What's the differences between the files that I pushed up? See, even in a report, you can see what the files are, the difference in the files. And another thing is, let's talk about branching. So what I can do is I can make a copy just for me to work on. And then when I'm done with that copy, I can merge that copy back into my master copy if I wanted to. So that's just a crash course on source control. The main idea of this was formatting with PLSQL. Sometimes I like to just add a little bit at the end. Thanks.